Taeho Kim stood in the massive chamber of the Galaxy Council, looking up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. The room was bigger than most stadiums back on Earth. Golden light came from crystals in the ceiling, making everything look grand and important. But Taeho felt small and angry. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galaxy Council for 5 years now. 5 long years of watching aliens treat humans like children. 5 years of being told to sit down and be quiet, while other species made decisions about human lives. Today was worse than usual. "The motion passes," announced Speaker Morvac, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Earth will provide all quantum drive ships for the Valkyrie campaign. The human fleet will report to Admiral Threx within 10 standard days." Taeho's hands shook with rage. He pressed the button on his speaking device. "Speaker Morvac, I object to this decision. Earth was not consulted about this war. Our people did not vote for this conflict. You cannot simply take our entire fleet." Laughter filled the chamber. Not friendly laughter, but the kind that made Taeho's face burn with shame. Several alien delegates pointed at him with claws, tentacles, and other appendages he could not name. Speaker Morvac's 4 eyes looked down at Taeho with what humans would call a smirk. "Ambassador Kim, your species seems to forget its place. Humans are useful tools in our galactic community. Very good tools, in fact. Your ships are fast, your soldiers fight well, and your engineers can fix almost anything." More laughter echoed around the chamber. "But tools do not make decisions," Morvac continued. "Tools do not vote on how they are used. Tools simply do what they are told. Earth will provide its ships because the Council requires them. This discussion is over." Taeho felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart exactly, but something deeper. Something that had been bending for years under the weight of constant insults and dismissal. "We are not tools," he said quietly, into his speaking device. The laughter stopped. The chamber fell silent. "What did you say?" Speaker Morvac leaned forward, all 4 of his arms gripping the edge of his platform. Taeho stood straighter. He thought about his daughter back on Earth, about the human colonies scattered across the galaxy, about all the brave men and women who had died fighting in alien wars they never chose. He thought about Dr. Hai-Jin Park, his closest friend and advisor, who was watching this meeting from Earth. He thought about how tired he was of apologizing for existing. "I said we are not tools," Taeho repeated, louder this time. "Humans are people. We think, we feel, we dream, we build, we love, we die. We are not objects for you to use whenever it suits your purposes." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Delegates from dozens of species shouted in languages Taeho could not understand. But their meaning was clear enough. How dare this human speak to them this way? How dare this primitive creature from a backwater world challenge the great galaxy? "Council?" Speaker Morvac raised one of his hands for silence. When the noise died down, his voice was cold and sharp like a blade. "Ambassador Kim, your species has been part of this council for 37 years. In that time, humans have contributed much to galactic civilization. Your quantum drive technology revolutionized space travel. Your medical advances saved billions of lives across multiple species. Your tactical abilities have won wars that others thought impossible." Taeho waited for the insult he knew was coming. "But in all that time," Morvac continued, "humans have shown themselves to be exactly what I described. Useful tools. Nothing more. You fix our problems, fight our wars, and build our technologies, but you do not have the wisdom to lead. You do not have the experience to make difficult decisions. That is why the Council guides you." "Guides us?" Taeho could not believe what he was hearing. "You mean controls us, you mean uses us." "Use is such an ugly word," said Delegate Vorthak, a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many eyes. "We prefer to think of it as mutual cooperation. Humans provide their talents and the Council provides direction and purpose." "What if we refuse?" Taeho asked. The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Several delegates made sounds that might have been laughter, or might have been threats. Speaker Morvac's expression did not change. Refuse? Ambassador Kim, I think you misunderstand your situation. Earth is one world among thousands in this galaxy. Humans are one species among hundreds represented in this council. You have value because you are useful. If you cease to be useful— He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Dr. Hyejin Park watched the entire exchange from her office in Seoul. She had been Earth's chief scientist for 8 years, and Taeho's closest advisor for even longer. She saw his shoulders slump as the weight of Morvac's threat settled on him. But she also saw something else. She saw the moment when Taeho's fear turned into something much more dangerous. She saw him make a decision that would change everything. I understand perfectly, Taeho said into his speaking device. His voice was calm now, controlled. Earth will provide an answer to your demand within 72 hours. There is nothing to consider, Speaker Morvac replied. The decision has been made. Your ships will report to Admiral Threx as ordered. We will provide an answer, Taeho repeated. Then he did something no human ambassador had ever done before. He turned his back on the Galaxy Council and walked toward the exit. The chamber exploded in outrage. Delegates screamed insults in dozens of languages. Security guards moved to stop him. But Speaker Morvac held up a hand. Let him go, the speaker said. Let him return to Earth with tales of how the mighty Galaxy Council treated his little tantrum. Perhaps his leaders will teach him proper respect. Taeho kept walking. Behind him, he heard Speaker Morvac address the chamber. The human fleet will be seized if not provided voluntarily. Their colonies will be occupied if necessary. Sometimes children must be disciplined before they learn to obey. The words followed Taeho all the way to his ship. They echoed in his mind during the 3-day journey back to Earth. They burned in his memory as he walked into the emergency session of the United Earth Parliament. President Dongwoo Lee sat at the head of the great table, surrounded by representatives from every nation and colony. The room fell silent as Taeho entered. Show them, Taeho said simply. Dr. Hyejin Park activated the holographic display. The recording of the council session played for everyone to see. They watched Speaker Morvac call humans useful tools. They watched delegates laugh at Earth's representative. They watched aliens threaten to seize human ships and occupy human worlds. When the recording ended, the room remained silent for a long moment. President Lee was the first to speak. How long have they seen us this way? Always, Taeho replied. From the very beginning, we were never partners, we were never equals. We were resources to be managed and directed. What do you recommend? Asked General Kyungmin Bae, Earth's top military officer. Taeho looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. These were good people who had spent decades trying to build a better future for humanity among the stars. They had compromised, negotiated, and sacrificed to earn a place in galactic civilization. I recommend we leave, Taeho said. The words seemed to suck all the air out of the room. Leave? President Lee asked. Withdraw from the Galaxy Council. Recall all human personnel from alien worlds. Bring our ships home. Cut all ties. Taeho's voice grew stronger with each word. Let them find other tools to fix their problems. Dr. Hyejin Park stood up. It would mean abandoning 37 years of diplomatic work. It would mean giving up our influence in galactic affairs. What influence? Taeho asked. We have no vote that matters, no voice that is heard, no respect that is earned. They take our technology, our soldiers, our ships, our lives, and give us nothing in return but contempt. President Lee looked around the table. All in favor of withdrawal from the Galaxy Council? Every hand rose. The vote was unanimous. Back on the council station, Speaker Morvac received word of Earth's decision and laughed. 6 months, he told his aide. Give them 6 months of isolation, and they will come crawling back, begging to rejoin. Humans cannot survive without the Council's protection and guidance. He had no idea how wrong he was. On Earth, Dr. Hyejin Park was already making calls to secret research facilities hidden throughout the solar system. Projects that had been theoretical for decades were suddenly given unlimited funding and priority. Status, how long? President Lee asked her privately. To evacuate everyone. 6 months minimum, she replied. To implement the contingency plans? Perhaps a year. And after that? Dr. Park smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. After that, the galaxy learns what happens when you discard the best tools you ever had. Admiral So-Young Choi stood on the bridge of the massive transport ship New Horizon, watching the last human colony ship disappear into hyperspace. Around her, dozens of screens showed similar scenes across the galaxy. Humans were coming home. The evacuation had taken 8 months instead of 6. There were simply too many humans scattered across too many worlds. Engineers working on alien space stations, scientists in research facilities on distant moons, soldiers serving in galactic defense forces, doctors treating patients in alien hospitals, families who had made lives for themselves on worlds they thought would be their permanent homes. All of them were coming back to Earth. Admiral, called Captain Minho Jang from his station. The last transport from Kepler Station is requesting permission to begin the final protocol. So-Young nodded. Permission granted. Begin data purge. On her main screen, she watched the Kepler research station grow smaller as the transport ship pulled away. Inside that station, human scientists had been working for 15 years on subspace communication technology. If completed, it would have allowed instant communication across the entire galaxy. Species separated by thousands of light years could talk as easily as neighbors. Now that research would die with the station. Captain Minho commanded the final transport from Kepler. His ship carried 47 human scientists and engineers, along with their families. These people had spent years, sometimes decades, working on projects they believed would help all galactic civilization. Execute the cleanse protocol, Minho ordered his technical officer. Back on Kepler Station, quantum computers that had been running calculations for 15 years suddenly stopped. Every file, every formula, every breakthrough discovery began to dissolve into random data. The aliens who remained on the station watched in confusion as screens went blank and storage systems reported total failure. Dr. Luna Shin, the station's chief human researcher, had programmed the cleanse protocol herself. She wanted to make sure that no trace of human innovation would remain for the Galaxy Council to steal and use. Complete data erasure confirmed, reported the technical officer. The station's main computers are running on backup alien systems only. All human-designed technology has been neutralized. Minho felt a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. Sadness for all the lost work that could have benefited everyone. Satisfaction, knowing that the aliens who had called humans useful tools would never benefit from human creativity again. Similar scenes played out across 847 star systems. The Vega manufacturing complex, where humans had designed revolutionary matter converters, went silent as its key systems crashed. The Centauri Medical Center, where human doctors had developed cures for 17 different alien diseases, lost all its advanced diagnostic equipment when the human staff departed. On Ilur, Proxima Base, General Kyung-Min Bae oversaw the withdrawal of the last human military units. These soldiers had fought in 6 major galactic conflicts over the past 20 years. They had earned decorations from dozens of alien governments. Their tactical innovations had saved billions of alien lives. Sir, the Thorian commander is requesting a meeting, reported Major Yu Jin-song. He wants to know why we're abandoning our posts. Kyung-Min almost smiled. Tell Commander Thex that our contracts have been terminated. We are no longer needed. He's insisting that we have obligations to the Galactic Defense Network. Our only obligation was to a Galaxy Council that no longer recognizes us as equals, Kyung-Min replied. We are going home. As the last human transport ships departed from military bases across the galaxy, something unexpected began to happen. Systems that had been running smoothly for decades started to malfunction. Communication networks developed strange delays. Defense grids reported errors that no one could identify. The aliens had not realized how deeply human innovation had become woven into the fabric of galactic civilization. Human engineers had not just built things, they had improved everything they touched. Their modifications and upgrades had become invisible parts of systems throughout the galaxy. Now those improvements were vanishing. On Earth, Dr. Hee-Jin Park worked day and night in a secret facility beneath the Gobi Desert. Around her, hundreds of scientists and engineers labored on Project Lighthouse, humanity's response to their galactic exile. Status report, she called to Dr. Jaewon Ko, her chief assistant. The quantum barrier generators are 80% complete, he replied. Dr. Sang Hee-Yoon's team has finished the dimensional anchors. Engineer Yoo-Jin Song reports that the reality stabilizers are ahead of schedule. Hye-Jin nodded, checking items off her list. The Galaxy Council thought humans were just good at building conventional technology. They had no idea what humans were really capable of when they stopped holding back. What about the final component, she asked. Jaewon's expression grew serious. The Phoenix Gates are theoretically sound, but we won't know if they work until we test them. And once we do, there's no going back, Hye-Jin finished. Earth will be beyond the reach of any galactic power. Above them, President So-Jin Lee was dealing with the immediate crisis. Food shipments from agricultural worlds had stopped. Raw materials from mining colonies were no longer available. Trade agreements with alien corporations had been dissolved. Can we survive without galactic commerce? She asked Economic Minister Bo Young-kang. Short-term, yes, we have enough stored resources for several years. Long-term, Bo Young shrugged. That depends on whether Project Lighthouse works. So-Jin looked out the window of her office at the Seoul skyline. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds and atmosphere, alien observers were watching Earth with growing confusion. Human ships had stopped leaving the solar system 2 months ago. All communication with the Galaxy Council had ceased. Earth had become mysteriously silent. Captain Yoon-Soo Park commanded the last human warship to return from galactic service. Her destroyer, Seoul's Pride, had been patrolling the outer rim, protecting trade routes from pirates and raiders. Now she was coming home to a solar system that looked very different than when she had left. Captain, I'm reading some kind of energy barrier around Earth's moon, reported her navigation officer. It's not showing up on our charts. Yoon-Soo smiled. She had been briefed on Project Lighthouse before her departure. That's not a barrier, Lieutenant. That's a construction project. Around Luna, massive crystalline structures were growing like geometric flowers. They pulsed with energy that made her instruments give impossible readings. Each structure was the size of a small city, and there were hundreds of them. Earth Control. This is Seoul's Pride requesting docking instructions, she transmitted. Welcome, home, Seoul's Pride, came the reply. Follow Beacon Gamma 7 to the new orbital facility, and Captain Park, prepare to be amazed. The new orbital facility turned out to be a ring-shaped station circling Earth at the edge of the atmosphere. It was beautiful and alien-looking, unlike anything in human or galactic design. It seemed to bend space around itself, creating optical illusions that hurt to look at directly. As Yoon-Soo's ship docked, she realized that the Galaxy Council had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that humans were just very good at copying and improving alien technology. They never suspected that humans had been developing their own science in secret for decades. Back on the Galaxy Council station, Speaker Morvac was beginning to worry. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy about system failures and technological breakdowns. More troubling were the reports about human behavior during the evacuation. They destroyed everything, reported his aide, a nervous creature with too many tentacles. Every research project, every prototype, every improvement they made to our systems. It's like they wanted to erase all trace of their work. Surely they kept copies for themselves, Morvac said. We don't think so, sir. Our intelligence suggests they really did destroy everything, even their own decades of research. Morvac found this difficult to believe. Why would they destroy their own work? His aide shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps they don't want us to have it. The idea that humans might actively deny the Galaxy Council access to their innovations had never occurred to Morvac. In his mind, humans existed to serve galactic civilization. Their knowledge belonged to everyone. Send a delegation to Earth, he ordered. We will negotiate their return to the Council under more favorable terms. Sir, We've been trying to contact Earth for 3 months. They're not responding to any communications. Then send ships to the solar system. Bring me a human representative to negotiate with." 3 days later, the delegation returned with disturbing news. They had found the solar system exactly where it should be, but they could not approach it. Some kind of barrier surrounded the entire system, deflecting their ships harmlessly away. "What kind of barrier?" Morvac demanded. "We don't know, sir. Our scientists say it's theoretically impossible. It seems to bend space-time itself." Morvac stared at the report in disbelief. Humans were supposed to be useful tools, not master architects, of reality-bending technology. Where had this capability come from? Meanwhile, in the Gobi Desert facility, Dr. Hai Jin Park watched the final tests of Project Lighthouse with satisfaction. The quantum barrier around the solar system was holding perfectly. Earth was now completely. 1 year had passed since Earth went silent. The Galaxy Council was learning what it meant to lose their useful tools. Counselor Vex stood in the ruins of what had once been the Corvani Trade Center. The massive facility had coordinated commerce between 17 star systems for over 2 centuries. Now its corridors were dark and empty, filled only with the echoes of his footsteps. The automated systems that managed interstellar shipping had simply stopped working 3 months ago. Not broken, not damaged, just stopped. The alien engineers, who tried to repair them, found technology so advanced and interconnected that they could not understand how it functioned. "Sir, we've found the problem," reported Chief Engineer Korthak, his scales shifting color with frustration. The entire network was built on human-designed quantum processors. When their ship stopped transmitting navigation data, the whole system became confused and shut down. Vex examined the dead control panels. Each one bore small labels in human writing, modifications and improvements that had been added over decades. The original Corvani designers had built a simple trade coordination system. Human engineers had transformed it into something that could manage the commercial activities of 17 different species across vast distances. "Can we rebuild it without human technology?" Vex asked. Korthak's scales turned a deeper shade of purple. "We could try to recreate the original design from 200 years ago, but it would take decades and it would only handle a fraction of current trade volume." Vex nodded sadly. He had been one of the few council members who truly respected humanity. While others saw humans as useful tools, he had recognized them as brilliant innovators who made everyone else's lives better. Now he was watching galactic civilization crumble without them. Meanwhile, the Velkari uprising was spreading, like a plague across the galaxy. What had started as a regional rebellion was now threatening the core worlds of the Galaxy Council itself. General Yun-Su Park sat in her new office on Earth's orbital station, monitoring the war through long-range sensors. The reports she received painted a picture of complete military disaster. "The Council lost another 3 fleets this week," reported her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Chang-Min-Oh. "The Velkari are using tactics that our analysts say are impossible to counter without human-designed combat coordination systems." Yun-Su studied the tactical displays with professional interest. The Velkari weren't particularly brilliant military strategists, but they were fighting an enemy that had become dependent on human innovation for everything from ship design to battle planning. "What about the Andorian sector?" she asked. "Completely overrun." Commander Thex 9 tried to hold the system with traditional, defensive formations. The Velkari broke through in less than 6 hours. Yun-Su remembered Commander Thex 9. He had been one of the alien officers who regularly requested human tactical advisors. His fleets had been nearly invincible when human strategists helped plan his battles. Now he was just another defeated commander retreating toward the galactic core. Dr. Luna Shin worked from her secret research station beyond the galaxy's edge, monitoring the chaos through sensors that the Galaxy Council did not even know existed. Her data painted a clear picture. Galactic civilization was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. "The failure cascade is accelerating," she reported to Earth during her weekly briefing. "It's not just military defeats and trade breakdowns. The fundamental infrastructure is breaking down." President So-Jin Lee listened to the report from her office in Seoul. Through her window, she could see the strange aurora effects caused by Earth's dimensional barriers. The planet was now operating according to modified physics that made many things possible that had been impossible before. Explain the infrastructure problems, Sojin requested. Human engineers didn't just build things, Luna explained. We improved everything we touched. Power grids, communication networks, water treatment facilities, atmospheric processors on terraformed worlds. Our modifications became invisible parts of these systems. And now? Now those improvements are failing. Not all at once, but gradually. A power grid develops inefficiencies that grow worse over time. A communication network starts dropping signals randomly. Water treatment plants begin producing contaminated output. Sojin understood. It was like removing the foundation stones from a building. The structure might stand for a while, but eventually it would collapse under its own weight. On the Galaxy Council station, Speaker Morvac was dealing with the political consequences of humanity's departure. 3 major species had withdrawn their fleets from Council service to protect their home systems. The galactic economy was in free fall. Refugee ships crowded around the core worlds, fleeing systems that could no longer maintain basic civilization. We need to contact Earth, insisted Counselor Vex during an emergency session. They're the only ones who understand how to maintain the systems we've all come to depend on. Absolutely not, declared Delegate Threx, whose species had always been hostile to humanity. We will not go begging to a species of primitives. We will rebuild without them. Rebuild what? Vex asked angrily. Look around you, Threx. The galaxy is falling apart. Trade has collapsed. Military forces are being defeated everywhere. Infrastructure is failing on hundreds of worlds. How exactly do you propose to rebuild when we can't even maintain what we have? Threx's response was interrupted by an emergency alert. The massive holographic display in the center of the chamber showed a map of the galaxy with red zones spreading like an infection. Each red zone represented a system that had gone dark. No communications, no trade, no signs of advanced civilization. Status report, Morvac demanded. His aide consulted multiple data streams before responding. 47 systems have gone, completely silent in the past month. Another 112 are reporting critical infrastructure failures. The Velkari control approximately 30% of former Council territory. Morvac stared at the display in shock. In just 1 year, the Galaxy Council had lost control of nearly half the galaxy. But the worst news was yet to come. Dr. Sang Hee-yoon stood in her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, studying readings that would have terrified any galactic scientist. She was part of the team monitoring the galaxy's fundamental structure, and what she was seeing defied explanation. The quantum field fluctuations are increasing, she reported to Dr. Hai-Jin Park. Without human reality anchoring technology, space-time itself is becoming unstable in several regions. Hai-Jin examined the data with growing concern. Humans had not realized how much their presence had been stabilizing the galaxy's physical laws. Their technology didn't just work within the universe's rules, it helped maintain those rules. How bad is it? She asked. 3 star systems have reported impossible phenomena, planets phasing in and out of existence, stars flickering between different types. In the Epsilon sector, an entire nebula just disappeared. No explosion, no collapse. Just gone. This was worse than infrastructure failure or military defeat. The galaxy was becoming uninhabitable at a fundamental level. Admiral So Young Choi reviewed the reports from her command center on the orbital station. She had been expecting the Galaxy Council to eventually swallow their pride and ask for help. She had not expected reality itself to start breaking down. Recommendations? She asked her senior staff. We could offer limited assistance, suggested Captain Min Ho Jang. Maybe help them stabilize the most critical systems. Under what terms? Asked General Kyung Min Bae. They called us tools and slaves. Now they want us to fix their problems? People are dying, pointed out Dr. Jae-won Ko. Billions of innocent civilians who had nothing to do with the Council's arrogance. So Young understood the moral dilemma. Humanity had the power to help, but they also had every right to refuse. The Galaxy Council had made their choice when they treated humans as expendable resources. Before she could respond, her communications officer interrupted with an urgent message. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Galaxy Council. It's addressed to the leadership of Earth, So Young smiled grimly. After a year of silence, the Council was finally ready to talk. Speaker Morvac appeared on the main display, looking older and more tired than when Taiho Kim had last seen him. His forearms gestured in what humans had learned to recognize as a plea for mercy. Leaders of Earth, he began, the Galaxy Council requests immediate negotiations regarding the current crisis. We are prepared to discuss terms for humanity's return to galactic civilization. So Young exchanged glances with her staff. Even in desperation, Morvac was still thinking in terms of humans returning to serve the Council. We are willing to grant humanity full voting rights, Morvac continued, equal representation in Council decisions, favorable trade agreements, mutual defense treaties. It was everything humanity had wanted 37 years ago when they first joined galactic civilization. Everything they had been denied because they were seen as useful tools rather than valuable partners. But that was before Project Lighthouse, before humanity had learned what they were truly capable of when they stopped limiting themselves to galactic science. Draft a response. So Young ordered her communications officer. What should it say, Admiral? So Young thought about the years of humiliation and dismissal. Fleet Admiral Kess had commanded the largest invasion force in galactic history. 40,000 ships from 60 different species, all united under one purpose: force humanity back into line. The Galaxy Council's patience had finally broken. 3 years of infrastructure collapse, military defeats, and reality failures had pushed them past diplomacy. Earth's offer to negotiate as equals had been seen as the ultimate insult. How dare a single species demand equal treatment with, the combined might of the galaxy? Time to remind these humans of their place, Speaker Morvac had declared when he authorized the invasion. They are useful tools, nothing more. Tools that have forgotten their purpose. Now Admiral Kess stared at her command display in growing confusion. The solar system was exactly where it should be, but everything about it was wrong. Navigation. Confirm our position, she ordered. Position confirmed, Admiral, replied her navigator, a 6-armed creature from Proxima 7. We are at the edge of the Sol system. But the readings... Kess understood his hesitation. Her instruments showed a star system that should not exist. The sun blazed with blue-white light instead of the yellow glow recorded in every galactic database. The planets moved in orbits that hurt to calculate, following patterns that seemed to fold space around themselves. And surrounding it all was a barrier of crystalline structures that pulsed with energy signatures her science officers claimed were impossible. Analysis report, she demanded. Chief Science Officer Vorthak consulted his instruments with obvious distress. Admiral, the star appears to be burning at temperatures that should have consumed it billions of years ago. The planetary orbits violate basic gravitational mechanics, and those crystalline structures, what about them? They appear to be manipulating space-time itself. According to our readings, the entire system exists in a state of controlled dimensional flux. Kess felt a chill run down her spine. The Galaxy Council had sent her to discipline a species of primitive toolmakers. Instead, she was facing technology that seemed like magic. Can we penetrate the barrier? Vorthak ran calculations on his console. Admiral, I recommend extreme caution. These energy readings suggest the barrier could deflect or absorb any attack we might make. But Admiral Kess had her orders. The Galaxy Council expected her to return with Earth's surrender, not excuses, about impossible technology. All ships prepare for bombardment. Target the crystalline structures. 40,000 ships turned their weapons toward Earth's defenses. Particle beams, plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and gravitational disruptors. The combined firepower of dozens of species unleashed at once. The energy struck the barrier and simply vanished. Not absorbed, not deflected. It disappeared as if it had never existed at all. Sir, reported her weapons officer, our attacks are having no effect. The barrier appears to be converting our energy into something else. Before Kess could respond, her communication system activated without authorization. A human face appeared on her screen. Ambassador Taiho Kim, looking older but somehow more substantial than when she had last seen recordings of him. But there was something different about his appearance. The space around him seemed to bend slightly, creating optical distortions that made her instruments give impossible readings. His eyes held depths that had not been there before. "Admiral Kess," Tejo said calmly. "I remember you from the border, conflicts near Vega. You were a competent officer then. I hope you still are." "Ambassador Kim," Kess replied, trying to project authority she no longer felt. "By order of the Galaxy Council, you will lower your defenses and surrender your system for occupation. Earth will return to Council authority." Tejo's expression did not change. "And if we refuse? Then your species will face the consequences of defying galactic law." Tejo smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, you seem to misunderstand our situation. 3 years ago, the Galaxy Council informed us that we were useful tools. Today you discover what happens when tools decide they have better purposes. On Earth, Dr. Sang-Hee Yoon watched the confrontation from her control center deep beneath the Himalayas. Around her, quantum computers processed calculations that would have burned out galactic technology in seconds. "Project Phoenix is ready for activation," she reported to Dr. Hai-Jin Park. Hai-Jin nodded grimly. They had hoped it would not come to this, but the Galaxy Council had forced their hand. "Begin the demonstration. Let them see what they threw away." Across the galaxy, every piece of human-built technology received a signal transmitted through dimensions that galactic science did not know existed. Space stations, starship components, computer networks, medical devices, communication arrays. If humans had designed it, improved it, or even touched it, the signal reached it. And they all stopped working. Admiral Kess watched in growing horror as her fleet began to drift helplessly in space. Not all their ships failed, only the systems that incorporated human technology. But after decades of galactic cooperation, that meant nearly everything. "Engineering report," she shouted. "Admiral, all quantum drive systems are offline," reported her chief engineer. "Navigation computers are showing errors. Communication arrays are failing across the fleet. Even our life support systems are malfunctioning." Kess realized with growing dread that her massive invasion force had become a collection of disabled ships drifting in space around a target they could not reach or harm. But the demonstration was just beginning. On worlds throughout the galaxy, the lights went out. Not gradually, not with warning, but all at once. Every power grid, communication network, transportation system, and computer that relied on human innovations simply stopped functioning. The Thorian Empire found itself cut off from its colony worlds when their subspace communication array went dark. The Velkari uprising ground to a halt when their captured human-designed warships became dead metal in space. Trade routes that had operated for centuries became impassable when their navigation beacons failed. In the space of 12 hours, galactic civilization collapsed. President Sojin Lee stood in her office on Earth, watching reports stream in from across the galaxy. Cities in darkness, ships stranded between stars, entire species cut off from their governments and colonies. "The casualty estimates?" she asked quietly. General Kyung-Min Bae consulted his datapad with a grim expression. "Initial reports suggest minimal direct deaths, but if we maintain the shutdown for more than a few days, billions will die," Sojin finished. "Worlds that depend on human-designed life support, ships stranded in deep space, medical facilities that can't function without human technology." She felt the weight of those lives pressing down on her shoulders. The Galaxy Council had treated humanity like disposable tools, but the innocent civilians suffering now had not made that choice. "How long can we maintain the shutdown before it becomes genocide?" she asked. 48 hours, replied Dr. Jaewon Ko from his position at the communications console. "After that, life support failures will begin claiming lives on a massive scale." So Jin nodded. They had 48 hours to make their point before mercy required them to restore power to the galaxy. Back in space, Admiral Kess received a priority transmission from Speaker Morvac. The Galaxy Council's leader appeared on her screen, but he looked haggard and desperate. "Admiral, what is your status?" Morvac demanded. "Sir, our fleet is disabled. The humans have somehow caused our ships to malfunction. Worse, we're receiving reports of system failures across the entire galaxy." Morvac's forearms trembled with what might have been fear or rage. "That's impossible. No single species has that kind of power." "With respect, sir, we clearly underestimated human capabilities." Before Morvac could respond, Ambassador Tae-Ho Kim's image appeared alongside the Council transmission. Somehow, he had accessed their secure communications without authorization. "Speaker Morvac," Tae-Ho said calmly, "I believe you wanted to discuss terms?" How did you access this channel?" Morvac sputtered. "The same way we accessed every piece of technology in the galaxy," Tae-Ho replied. "We built it. We improved it. We made it better than you ever imagined possible. Did you really think we would do all that without leaving ourselves a way to control it?" The implications hit Morvac like a physical blow. For decades, humans had been improving alien technology, making it more efficient, more powerful, more capable. Every improvement had been welcomed, integrated into galactic civilization without question. No one had considered that humans might build control mechanisms into their improvements. "What do you want?" Morvac asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Nothing," Tae-Ho replied. "We tried to want what you offered. Acceptance, partnership, a place in galactic civilization. But you made it clear that was impossible. So we found something better." On Earth's orbital station, Admiral So-Young Choi activated a new display screen. It showed views of space that should not exist, star systems that operated under different physical laws, planets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, ships that traveled through realities instead of merely across distance. "Show them," So-Jin Lee ordered from Earth. The display transmitted to every functioning screen in the galaxy. Aliens across hundreds of worlds watched in awe and terror as humans demonstrated technology that made their greatest achievements look like children's toys. 3 years had passed since the day humanity turned off the galaxy. Director Chang Min-oh stood on the observation deck of the evacuation ship Last Hope, watching another star die in the distance. Not a natural death. This star simply flickered and went out like a candle in the wind. Without human reality anchoring technology, space itself was becoming unstable throughout the galaxy. "Sir, the Centauri research colony is ready for evacuation," reported his aide, Lieutenant Bo Young Kang. "But they're requesting permission to try one more experiment to stabilize the local space-time distortions." Chang Min shook his head sadly. "Negative. We don't have the equipment or knowledge to fix reality breakdowns of this magnitude. Get everyone out before this sector becomes completely uninhabitable." He watched another transport ship launch from the dying colony below. These were the descendants of humans who had chosen to stay in galactic space when Earth withdrew. They had hoped to build new lives among the aliens who remained. Instead, they found themselves refugees from a universe that was literally falling. A part the Galaxy Council still existed, but only barely. Of the original 800 member species, fewer than 200 remained in contact with each other. The rest had either been consumed by the expanding Velkari territories or had withdrawn to their home systems to wait for the end, because everyone could see that the galaxy was ending. Captain Yeona Shin stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Seoul, marveling at the sight before her. Through the Phoenix Gate, humanity's revolutionary transportation technology, she could see a star system that had never known war, never suffered the touch of galactic politics, never been limited by the narrow thinking that had trapped their old galaxy. "Dimensional scan complete," reported her science officer, Dr. Minho Jang. 17 inhabited worlds, all in various stages of natural development. No advanced spacefaring civilizations. No signs of aggressive expansion or military buildup. Yona smiled. This was the 4th such system they had discovered this month. Beyond the Phoenix Gates lay infinite universes where humanity could build something better than what they had left behind. Any signs of intelligent life? Several species show promise for eventual space travel, but they're still centuries away from leaving their home planets. If we establish colonies here, we'll have plenty of time to develop proper relationships with them as they advance. The key word was proper. Humanity had learned painful lessons about first contact from their experience with the Galaxy Council. When they encountered new species in these fresh universes, it would be as partners and equals from the beginning, not as tools to be used and discarded. On Earth, President Sojin Lee walked through the memorial garden in the heart of Seoul. The garden honored the humans who had died serving galactic civilization over the decades. Soldiers killed in alien wars, scientists who sacrificed their lives for breakthrough discoveries, engineers who died maintaining critical infrastructure for ungrateful species. Their sacrifice had not been meaningless. Their work had kept billions of aliens alive and prosperous for decades. But it had been undervalued, dismissed, and ultimately thrown away by a Galaxy Council that never learned to respect what they had been given. "Madam President," called Director Im-Soo Hwang, approaching with a datapad in her hands. "We have a visitor." So-Jin looked up in surprise. Earth had been isolated from galactic civilization for 3 years. Who could possibly be visiting? "It's Counselor Vex," Im-Soo explained. "His ship appeared at the outer edge of our barrier about an hour ago. He's requesting permission to approach Earth." So-Jin remembered Vex. He had been one of the few alien politicians who treated humans with genuine respect. During the worst years of Council arrogance, he had often spoken up for humanity's rights and contributions. Grant him safe passage, she decided. Let's hear what he has to say. 2 hours later, Counselor Vex stood in the president's office, looking older and more tired than So-Jin remembered. His usual confident bearing had been replaced by something that looked very much like desperation. "President Lee," he began, "I come not as a representative of the Galaxy Council, but as someone who hopes to preserve what little remains of galactic civilization." "The Council still exists?" So-Jin asked. "Barely. Speaker Morvac was killed 6 months ago when the Velkari overran the Council station. The remaining members have scattered to their home systems. Most species have given up on maintaining any form of galactic government." So-Jin gestured for him to sit. "I'm sorry to hear about Speaker Morvac. Despite our differences, I never wished him harm." Vex accepted the seat gratefully. He died still believing that humans would eventually return to serve the Council. He never understood what his arrogance had cost us all. "What do you want from us, Counselor?" Vex pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic map appeared between them, showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked Velkari territory, now covering nearly 60% of former Council space. Yellow zones indicated areas of space-time instability where reality itself was breaking down. Green zones, stable, habitable systems, were becoming rare. "This is what remains," Vex said quietly. "Perhaps 50 inhabited systems that still maintain basic civilization. Maybe 20 that could be called truly stable. The galaxy is dying, President Lee." So-Jin studied the map with growing sadness. She had known the situation was bad, but seeing it displayed so starkly was still shocking. "Even if we wanted to help," she said carefully, "I'm not sure we could. The damage may be too extensive to repair." "I'm not asking you to repair the galaxy," Vex replied. "I'm asking you to save what you can." He activated another projection, this one showing a handful of star systems near the galactic rim. These species never joined the Council. They were too isolated, too primitive, or too proud to accept galactic authority. But they also never benefited from Council protection or human innovations. And they're about to be overrun by the Velkari expansion. Billions of innocent beings who had nothing to do with the Council's treatment of humanity. So-Jin saw where this was going. "You want us to evacuate them?" "Some of the smaller species, yes. Others might be saved if they had access to stable space and time to rebuild. You've developed technology that can create new universes, haven't you?" So-Jin was quiet for a long moment. Vex was asking humanity to save aliens from a catastrophe that the Galaxy Council had created through their own arrogance. It would be easy to refuse to point out that humanity owed the galaxy nothing after decades of mistreatment, but that was not who humans were. "I'll need to discuss this with our leadership," she said finally. "But Counselor Vex, even if we agree to help, it will be on our terms. No more Galaxy Council. No more species hierarchies. No more treating anyone as tools to be used." Vex nodded eagerly. "Of course, whatever terms you think best." So Jin smiled sadly. "You still don't understand, do you? We're not interested in ruling the galaxy or replacing the council. We're offering something much simpler. The chance for species to meet as equals and build something better than what came before." 3 days later, the first Phoenix Gate opened near the Kepler system, where a species of peaceful traders was about to be overrun by Velkari forces. Human evacuation ships began moving millions of aliens to safety in dimensions where the Velkari had never existed. Dr. Hai-Jin Park supervised the evacuation from her command center on Earth's orbital station. Each rescued species was given a choice: settlement in peaceful universes where they could rebuild their civilizations, or partnership with humanity in exploring the infinite possibilities beyond the Phoenix Gates. Most chose settlement. They had suffered enough chaos and wanted only peace and safety, but some chose partnership, drawn by humanity's vision of infinite universes to explore and endless possibilities to discover. "How many have we saved so far?" asked Dr. Jaewon Ko, reviewing the evacuation statistics. 47 species, roughly 12 billion individuals, Hee-Jin replied. "But we're barely scratching the surface. At this rate, we might save 10% of the galaxy's population before the Velkari or reality collapse gets the rest." "Is that enough?" Hee-Jin thought about the question. Humanity could not save everyone. They had neither the resources nor the time to evacuate an entire galaxy, but they could save enough to ensure that galactic civilization would continue somewhere, in some form. "It has to be," she said. Admiral So Young Choi stood in the ruins of the old Galaxy Council chamber, now floating dead in space around the shattered remains of what had once been the galaxy's greatest space station. She had come here to complete humanity's final gift to galactic civilization. The device she carried was small and simple-looking, but it contained technology that the Galaxy Council had never imagined possible. She placed it carefully on what had once been Speaker Morvak's podium and activated it. A soft blue light began to pulse from the device, a dimensional beacon that would broadcast for thousands of years. Any species that managed to survive the collapse and rebuild with wisdom instead of arrogance would eventually detect its signal. Inside the beacon was humanity's final gift: complete instructions for dimensional travel, reality manipulation, and universe creation.